What's up, Fusion? Come on. What's up, Fusion? What's up, Fusion? There we go, a little bit better. This side said nothing. You said hi? Okay, you did say hi. Okay, I'm fine with that. All right. Got a couple things here I want to put on this table before I start. All right. Amen. Jesus is really good. All right. So tonight we're going to continue on with our series Break Trail. All right. Break trails, like this hiking thing. How many people like going hiking? Show of hands. All right. How many people have like hiking gear to actually go hiking? Yeah. I like walking, but I have no hiking gear because I wanted to dress up in my hiking stuff, but I don't have too many pieces. But we may have some time where you can dress up in a hiking paraphernalia at some point. All right, so to kind of start this off, quick shout outs. I need everybody to give a round of applause to Kinsley and Delaney. Kinsley and Delaney. So Kinsley is on camera. Delaney is in the back. She's putting up all of the slides so we can sing all the songs. She's gonna pull up all the slides for the message and stuff. So shout out to basically your brothers and sisters that help with all of the tech and help Fusion run, all right? So want to give them a shout out. Good job, y'all. Good job. Okay, so we're going to continue on Break Trail. We're talking about walking in the footsteps of Jesus, all right? Break Trail, walking in the footsteps of Jesus. We have a lot of information about Jesus' life on earth, but we don't know everything. So I'm assuming people still have some questions about Jesus, like what was his favorite food, maybe what was his favorite joke, what he did on his days off. I know he's never sinned, but have you ever thought about like, did Jesus make a mistake like when he stubbed his toe? You know what I mean? Like little stuff like that. But we're going to talk about like walking in his shoes. So we're also going to talk about pain, all right? So I'm going to tell you guys a time where I experienced some pain. It actually came during Fusion. So a couple of years ago in Fusion, it might have been my first year, I think. So I'm in Fusion, and one night, after everything was going good, we're in small groups, and I was just starting getting this pain in my stomach. And like, it's like hunching me over just a little bit. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I'm like telling Jess, I think I told Jay and everything. I'm like, guys, like I really just don't feel good. And we had a security guy that does security. Shout out to people that do security at Fusion. He was doing security. And so I'm telling him about it because it was like in between of small groups going into the after party. So, you know, the like kind of little void that happens. So I'm talking to him, I'm just hunching over. And he was like, man, like you really need to get that checked out because I know somebody that had this before. And when they went to the doctor, like it was like a mess. So like, go get it checked out. And of course I'm like, no, like I got this, I'm fine. I'm good, I'm going to the doctor for anything. So then my wife comes that night for some strange reason and he tells her and she's like, we're going to the ER. Like we're gonna go. Yes, shout out to my wife, right? So we go into the ER, I'm still hurting and I'm just like, oh, everything should be fine and all this other stuff, but I'm still like hunching over. So they put me through all of the process. I have the gown on, you know what gown I'm talking about, right? So I'm laying on the bed and stuff, and they do some tests, and the doctor comes back, and he looks at me. He's just like, hey, like, you have, like, severe gas. That's the punchline. I had gas, right? So all of this stuff that was going on, I just had some really bad gas. So he gave me a little, you know what I mean, something from a belly to help me pass this on, right? So some of us have some stories like this, you know, some stories of like little injuries or something that's a little silly. It was a very expensive, silly injury, but you know, sometimes gas gets you, all right? But it was also painful. So when we go through stuff like things that we experience some pain with, right? We want friends to help us with, no matter how silly it is or how serious it is, we actually want people to help us with it. But what we do not want sometimes is like the first aid friends, right? So sometimes like we have these people. So sometimes when we hurt, people will try to like show up for us, but not always in the ways that we want or we need. So people might try to show up with a first aid kit to try and fix our problems. But we all know that a little fix is always as important as a good friend. So sometimes people come into our lives like almost like a phone, right? So sometimes when we're hurt, people want to give us advice. They want to tell us what it is that we need to do. Like they told me I need to go to the ER for my gas, but they didn't know it was just gas, right? but they wanted to give us advice, but we really just want someone to give us a call when we're hurting or just to listen to us talk it out, right? Sometimes like a snack. So sometimes the best medicine for a tough day is a friend or a family member who shows up with your favorite snack just to remind you that they see you, all right? And then sometimes it's just like someone who's willing to pick us up when we need a moment to breathe or just get away from a very tough situation. So we don't just need friends to come in all the time just to fix it, but we need people just to stand in our corner, to listen to us, to take us somewhere, to allow us to get a little breath of fresh air. So on a serious side, one time that I experienced some pain, and it was a really tough time for me. So it was during the period, I was 17 years old, I was about to get my GED. And during this time, I dropped out of high school, I went through a really bad breakup with my girlfriend at the time. And of course, like high school relationships are so crazy, right? So really bad breakup. Another thing that was going on during that time, my two best friends, I didn't have like youth group in my church because my church was a lot smaller. So it was me and just two other guys, my boys, Lamar and Ty Kim. And they were older than me, so they went off to college. So again, dropped out of school. I now feel like I'm by myself because my friends are going up to college. I had a really bad breakup. And then I find out in my church that the pastor that I got saved underneath, like the guy that like kind of God used to speak into my life to draw me to Christ, he is saying he's moving to California to go pastor a different church. So you can kind of imagine where I was as a 17-year-old young man trying to figure life out. And all of the people that I've attached myself to have now left me. I felt completely lonely in that season. And you talk about pain, it was very painful for me because everybody I just hung out with, everybody I felt close to, I felt like it just left me. Some like on purpose and some just life just kind of takes us in that direction. So when life already hurts, people sometimes they add to the hurt. So during that time, I felt like people really didn't understand me. So I was going around telling other people that, not my friends, but telling them how I felt. And they would just say, oh, just get over it. That's just life. Like, oh, you'll figure it out. But that hurt because I'm like, man, I'm missing something that I once had. So sometimes people can make life hurt when they fail to get out to understand what our pain is like. It's not because that the people don't want to help or don't care. It's just really hard to understand what other people are going through sometimes. And that's what I experienced. So although it's never easy to experience pain, it helps when we know that we're not alone. Once in a while, a tragedy occurs that unites people in their pain, like when the world loses someone who we see as a trailblazer. All right. So last week, Jess talked about this, and there's a hiking term called breaking the trail. It's what you do when you encounter deep snow that's tough to navigate. So someone that breaks the trail goes in front of other people and they kind of step through the snow. All right. So the people that follow behind them can step right in their footsteps to make the trail a lot smoother. And we call that person a trailblazer. So the person that opens up a new trail is like a trailblazer. So I know some of you guys may know him. Chadwick Boseman was an incredible actor who many people saw as a trailblazer. Before his premature death to cancer, Chadwick made the most of his career, not just for himself, but for the next generation too. In a couple seconds, we're going to play a clip because he died of cancer prematurely, and we're going to show just a tribute of it. But in the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, it's said of Chadwick, he was not only a conduit to the past and the way African Americans persevered and pushed through so many challenges, he also represented brightness and the promise of tomorrow. So let's check out this quick clip. So Chadwick was a trailblazer. He created a lane for people to kind of come behind him and step their foot in. Delaney, we're going to kind of breeze through the verses, and then we're going to get to the next point. So in Matthew chapter 27, we see Jesus, and Jesus is experiencing this pain. So Jesus is our trailblazer literally for everything. He's walked through life, and we walk footstep after his footstep. And in Matthew chapter 27, you guys can read it another time, verses 27 through 44. What it talks about is the ridicule, the mocking, and everything that Jesus had to go through before he even got to the cross. right? So it talks about how people treated him as a human being before he even got to the place where he died, right? So it just mocks him. So when Jesus was arrested and eventually killed, he felt every type of pain imaginable, right? So Jesus was physically in pain. He was beaten with fists, whips, and other ancient weapons. Jesus felt the pain of being insulted. People questioned Jesus' authenticity, took and gambled away his clothes, and they humiliated him. And they mocked him and everything that he lived and fought for. Jesus felt pain of being betrayed. Last week, as we said, many people loved Jesus, walked away from him. Jesus was abandoned by many people who were close to him. Jesus felt the pain of seeing his loved ones in pain. In the last moments before Jesus took his last breath, Jesus saw his mother in the crowd who was unable to do anything except watch her son die in horror. Jesus felt the pain of being misunderstood. Jesus was put to death by religious leaders, soldiers, and everyday people who saw him as a criminal, as a blasphemer, or a violent rebel. But in reality, Jesus was God himself on a mission to love and rescue each of the people that were coming after his life. Paul talks about in Philippians how he wants to know Jesus and his sufferings. Why in the world would Paul say he wants to know Jesus and his sufferings? Well, Paul was saying that he would put to death his old life in order to save his new life in Jesus. Just like Jesus died, Paul wanted to see his old life of sin die. As I was kind of going through this message, I was thinking about it in the message this morning from Pastor Brian and his wife, Becky. They were talking about life, and they were talking about how, like, we perceive life a certain way and we want to do things so much on our own, and we truly forget that we were made to be dependent. We were made to be dependent on God. So one of the things that we try to run away from all of the time is pain. Whenever pain is present, we just want to like dodge in the other direction. We also like look on social media, and you ever like follow people on social media that you really, really like. The one thing that you'll probably never see them go through is pain. But we know everybody experiences it. But every time we look at somebody on social media, it's like this weird allure where we go, what in the world, like how, like I want to live their life. Like how in the world do I have the life that they have where they don't experience any pain? But it's not true, because we all experience pain. One of the things I think that we all want to be too is strong people, right? The strong person doesn't show that they're weak. The strong person shows that nothing gets them down. But what if I tell you the person that is truly strong is the person that knows that they're weak? Well, why would you say the person that is strong actually knows that they're weak? Because the person that knows that they're weak relies on the strength of Jesus in their life. They understand that they need people. They understand that they need God to help them through life. So we can't go through life thinking that we're just going to figure things out, because we can't on our own. We need Jesus. We need to depend on him for our pain and our struggles. And actually, when we try to figure things out on our own, it robs us of our relationship with God. It robs God of showing us what he can do in our lives. It robs our friends when we don't tell them to go toward Jesus too, because then they won't receive what God has for them. So a couple of things I want you guys to do is look at this slide. Jesus relates to our pain. Jesus was physically in pain, and we went through all of that. So one thing I want you guys to think about, three things. I want you to think about some physical pain that you may be experiencing. I want you to think about some emotional pain that you may be experiencing, and then some spiritual pain. So physical pain, some injuries, some ailments, maybe even some disabilities that you're struggling with. Emotional pain. If you ever felt left out, forgotten, betrayed, or unwanted, Jesus is there too. Get that pain. And then spiritually, maybe you're struggling with something, a sin that feels like it has control over your life. Jesus is here for you. We're going to take like literally a minute or two, and I want you guys to pray. All right. Get in groups of maybe like 2 or 3, just super quick. Share one of these things, a physical pain, an emotional pain, or spiritual pain that you are going through, and pray for one another. It does not have to be long, because again, it's like a minute. It does not have to be long, but please like pray with one another. If it's something that you really want a small group leader to pray for, there are small group leaders all over here. Please feel free to go to a small group leader to pray with them. We want to spend some time to pray. So think about physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, and we're going to take some time to pray with one another.